players were worried about Yawgmoth before this set, right? Honorog, they just couldn't actually beat cards like Fury and Solitude, but the addition of the One Ring has actually changed that dynamic and put it on its head.
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about this card as we go throughout the day, because the One Ring, I believe, is just like the spiciest card that has come out in a while, and I have some pretty strong thoughts about it. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of this card, just like, you know, in every single deck list almost, because it's just like that generically good. But let's take a look on the other side. We have Jonathan Steele playing 4-color. Now, this is going to be kind of interesting, right? Walk me through the texture of maybe this specific matchup. What are some cards we want to see in the opening hand? What is the overall macro strategy? What's good here for Sam?
Yeah, so from Sam's perspective, he's, especially with the One Ring as being a big part of his deck, as we see our Cauldron Familiar here on turn 1, it is going to want to like play a longer, grindier game than traditional. Yawgmoth before sort of had this problem where if you're the 4-color or the control player in general, you sort of had 2 game plans. You either fight over the Undying creatures to prevent any sort of huge value, or you fight aggressively over the Yawgmoth if your deck is heavy on counter spells. And that was sort of the way that players would approach this dynamic. Now that Sam's sort of low on Yawgmoths and high on rings, Sam can play a longer, grindier game, but needs to be really careful that the Yawgmoths don't all get exiled, and so doesn't want to throw out any value Yawgmoths like you might normally see, unless Sam is sure that there's another Yawgmoth lined up. So from Sam's perspective, we want to get on board early, present a good board presence, force Jonathan to interact, and sort of tap out, and then boom, slam our Yawgmoth, go for the combo kill.
All right, well, it looks like Jonathan is going to go for a Windswept Heath here on turn 1, fetching up a Stomping Ground. Now, one thing that I would like to mention is I know that it does say 4-color as the deck indication, but looking at this deck list, Mason, my jaw is literally just on the floor. This is a deck list that I don't think we've actually even ever seen on the NRG series, so banger to start off the day already. This is a 8 birds deck, so he's got 4 Birds of Paradise, 4 Ignoble Hierarch, and I'm looking at I am not joking when I say this: 4 Ball Lightning, 4 Groundbreaker, 4 Lightning Skelemental, 3 Spark Trooper, and 4 Thunderkin Awakener. So I mean, just give me a quick rundown. What is this deck trying to do?
You know, I obviously know exactly what this deck's trying to do. A staple of the modern format. I am pulling up the deck list right now, actually, because I didn't quite have time yet. Wasn't sure who Sam Black's opponent was. And it looks to me like this deck is really trying to abuse the fact that, hey, using birds early is going to really put you far ahead. And we also have some really cool interactions here. You know, we have Ball Lightning and stuff like that and Groundbreaker. And then we have Eldritch Evolution, so we can turn on a Skelemental into something else. And there's a lot of really cool sort of things going on here. And it looks like we're just trying to, you know, really abuse Elf into one of these Ball Lightning type effects into Unearths. And then we have things like Eldritch Evolution to find more or to turn them into real cards. And it's a really interesting approach. I'm curious to see how it lines up against Sam Black, because one thing that was always true of the Yawgmoth deck is its life is a resource more so than any other deck in Magic. You know, we typically say as Magic players, you should use your life aggressively to leverage cards. But in this deck, you actually need life in order to start comboing. And with things like the One Ring and Yawgmoth being taxing, a bunch of these Ball Lightnings might be a huge thing, as we are seeing a Shocked and Overgrown Tombs and a casting of, I assume, a Ball Lightning effect.
Yeah, so that is basically what this deck is. It is just, here's a Ball Lightning on turn 2, here's a Ball Lightning on turn 3, here's a Ball Lightning on turn 4. You can see the pattern here, right? Thunderkin Awakener to buy back all these elementals that are going to the graveyard. And so really, this is just a fast clock. Now, we see Samwise Gamgee in play now on turn 2 from Sam. He's going to untap, draw a card here. And Sam doesn't have very many cards in hand, so I'm going to presume that there may have been a mulligan involved or something like that. How does Yawgmoth handle this sort of hyper fast aggressive strategy?
Yeah, so typically the plan from the Yawgmoth deck is, hey, I have Undying creatures. So Young Wolf and Strangler Geist, they block really well. And Wall Roots, as we see here, is also a great way, as we see a Convoke here for Quarter Calling. It's to sort of be like, I have a bunch of jump blockers. But all these Ball Lightning effects have Trample on Arog. So Sam's normal plan to just mitigate this sort of damage, get a little bit of food from Samwise is enough. But instead, we're just going to win the game right now, as we have found Carrion Feeder with Samwise in play. So Sam Black's going to sack the cat, get a food token, sack it, do it again, and that's a turn 3 kill. And this is the difference in Sam Black's deck to traditional Yawgmoth. Let's hop into one of the other matches real quick. We have just one on turn 3 out of nowhere. It didn't matter that we had these elementals. Sam Black's just like, well, I have the combo kill, as we have hopped into a Pioneer match of Sacrifice versus Dimir Mill.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so that's one of the great things today, because we are bringing you a team tournament. We're going to showcase various formats, multiple. So we got Pioneer, we got Modern, and Legacy. So in between matches, we may return to Modern to see the conclusion or get the continuation of the Modern game there. Walk me through this matchup. Brian Kowal on Rakdos Sacrifice against Fernie Porras and Dimir Mill. Wow, these both seem like modern archetypes too, you know?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it looks like early on in this game here, Rakdos Sacrifice, we've got... Sorry, just checking in if Mason is still there. Okay. Let's if we can get a chance, let's take a look at also the legacy match that is going on. I believe that is a spicy one that we've got. And I can definitely showcase everything that's going on there. So we have Aspa Amiridis here on Jeskai Delver, which is interesting, and Blake Stinson on Simic Combo. So we're going to find out a little bit more about what that is as we go on. I see Summoner's Pact, looks like an Elvish Spirit Guide, and what appears to be a green creature. Is this just Neoform, but in Legacy? I see a Neoform in the hand, and that might just be sacrificing this Allosaurus. It's not Shepherd. It's like what, the Rider? Oh my goodness! And then we're gonna get Gristlebrand here, and I think we're just going to win. Now, what's really interesting is here, in the meantime, while we're resolving this Neoform, I'm going to talk about this Jeskai Delver deck, which I think is pretty sweet. It features one of the new cards in the Lord of the Rings Commander sets, because we, as Legacy players, have access to that. Fourth Airlingas. Mason, have you seen this card? Okay, Mason is reconnecting. But Fourth Airlingus is a really cool card. I actually got to play a little bit with this card in Legacy. Very, very excited by it. It basically reads X red white. Make a bunch of trampling, hasty warriors, I think. They attack, and if a creature deals combat damage this turn, you actually become the monarch. And so I've actually been playing it I've seen it in a couple shells. I've been playing it in control, but this Delver deck really does sort of abuse the fact that you can play a creature on turn 1 and then immediately follow it up with Fourth Airlingas on turn 2, making 0 tokens, but still attacking with the turn 1 creature to become the monarch, and then generating advantage that way.
I love to be in charge and be the monarch. It's such a good feeling to get all the card draw. And really a card that nicely scales with the game, right? You can play it like you mentioned on turn 2, but you can also sort of go off here in the mid game and get things going on. So we have a little oopsie poopsie and a dropping of the card.
Yeah, I think people. So after the banning of expressive iteration, a lot of players are trying to find, just figure out what's going on with card advantage in these sort of Delver decks, and I think Fourth Airlingus is a great option. I think also in the last Legacy event that we had here on the NRG series, actually Theo Jung went 6-0 in the Swiss portion with this deck, specifically with this Jeskai Delver deck. Just as a note to production, while this player is comboing off, maybe we could take a look at the Pioneer match as well to see how that's developing forward. Because at this point, the combo is just draw a bunch of cards with a Gristlebrand and then win with a Thassa's Oracle or something like that. So back to our Rakdos Sacrifice and Dimir Mill matchup. A lot has happened here. Mason, I'm going to ask you to catch me up to speed here with what we see in play.
Yeah, so we have Frank Sanity. That is one of the mill enchantments. Basically, it's going to mill Brian here for a couple cards every turn. As we do see Brian sort of exiling 2 here to the Daily Dispute and the Unlucky Witness. And it looks like kind of what's happened here is Porras has stabilized the battlefield a little bit. We have one little Thopter in play that maybe is a food. We're not exactly sure if players have the correct token there. I would guess that that's a food, given that the deck normally doesn't make Thopters, but I could be off. And it looks like for if you're a Dimir Mill fan, the game is sort of a little bit stabilized. You know, we had Jace go off, we milled them for a bunch, and now we're just looking for that one last mill piece to sort of push us over the edge as Fable the Mirrorbreaker gets cast.
I like that there's that sort of pseudo sacrifice theme amongst this team, except I guess Delver doesn't really sacrifice at all. No, you sacrifice your opponent. Okay, perfect. Today's the gods. All right, so we're on it. This is team sacrifice. So this matchup is kind of interesting. It looks like the modern match is getting ready. Before it does, let's just wrap up some thoughts here. How do you feel about this matchup in general, the sacrifice versus mill matchup? What are some key cards? What's important? Who do you think is actually ahead in game 1?
I imagine the card Tasha's Hideous Laughter matters a ton in this matchup, just because the sacrifice deck, one of its big strengths is how cheap the mana value of all the cards are. So a card that says, hey, mill till you hit 20 mana value of cards is often going to be 15, 16 cards, and that is huge for these mill decks. So I imagine Tasha's Hideous Laughter is one of the big ones, as long as Jace the Perfected Mind, as we do see that being the graveyard they are sort of fought over. It's something that mills a ton of cards and draws a bunch of cards. So that's something that often can take over these games.
Awesome. Well, okay, I'm sure people have seen this matchup 20,000 times before, and I really want to watch Sam Black play with this new Samwise Gamgee card. So let's pen over back to Modern and see, as the players are starting to shuffle up here, what we've got going on. Now, as a recap of this first game, because it's been like less than 5 minutes, but the game ended so fast that we just have to talk about it. We were looking at a Ball Lightning deck on the other side that just goes Ball Lightning, Ball Lightning, Ball Lightning. Haha, did you have fun? And Sam was like, actually, yes, I did, because here's a turn 3 combo kill to get you dead. Walk me through the combo and like what are some of the cool things that this Golgari Yawgmoth in quotes deck can do?
Yeah, so the Golgari Yawgmoth deck, kind of like the Abzan pod deck of old, really. So what's heartening to me when I'm looking at play here is we do have the Yawgmoth kill like we talked about. We also had the kill that we saw last round. Carrion Feeder, any stock outlet really, Cauldron Familiar and Samwise means that every time the cat enters the battlefield from the graveyard, you make a food, then you can sacrifice the cat to bring it back. Another small interaction we talk about here is we talk about how a lot of Jonathan's cards have trample. So the blocking isn't going to go very far. But if you just have Samwise and Cauldron Familiar, you get to block with the cat every turn. And while that isn't going to save you long term, that is going to mitigate about 2 life, right? Because you're going to block, take the 1 damage, trample, and then bring it back to gain a life. So there is a little bit of blocking Sam can do to minimize the damage and sort of work towards the combo. So if you're a Ball Lightning fan, which, who isn't these days, you're going to want to see a lot of cards that can maybe interact and stop the graveyard coming back and forth. When it comes to those sort of cards, we do have a bunch of Leyline the Voids, although it looks like we didn't have one in our opening hand. So that is going to make it a little bit harder to stop Sam's combo.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to start off here with the same play as game 1 here. Ignoble Hierarch off of a Stomping Ground. If it didn't work the first time, get up, try again, and I'm a huge fan of that. Let's see if the texture of this game is a little bit different, as Sam is going to, looks like, put a play, it's going to put a landed to play tapped here, perhaps. Probably shocking. I don't think there are too many tap lands in Modern, especially in a 2-color deck. So that means that we're probably going to see something like a Yawgmoth or a Mana Dork on turn 1 and go from there.
Yeah, if you're if you're going to pick up this Yawgmoth deck and you want to play it after buying it from us over here at NRG, you can want to start with the Mana Dorks, because then you can play more cards. Although sometimes you do lead on things like Yawgmoth just because you don't have those. And it's one of the strengths of this deck is Delighted Halfling is the play. You sort of have a bunch of turn 1 plays, and having really efficient mana plays is super powerful in these older formats if you haven't gotten around to playing those.
Yeah, Delighted Halfling is a new card from the Lord of the Rings set here. It's a 1/2 Halfling Peasant. And that's actually really interesting in the format. First, we'll get into that just a second. But also, it has the ability to tap for any color, and you can spend that color to cast only a legendary spell. But then that legendary spell becomes uncounterable. So you'll see some synergies in this deck with Delighted Halfling. Notably, Yawgmoth Transposition is a legend. Notably, the One Ring is a legend as well. It looks like turn 2, surprise, there's a Ball Lightning coming into the face here. Sam is actually already at 10. So with the shock land and 6 points of damage, I mean, the heat is on.
Yeah, it really is. And, normally something like maybe Grist would be one of Sam's better plays in a traditional matchup. Just a turn 2 Grist, get it on the board, start generating a bunch of tokens to chump block. But like we talked about, these Ball Lightnings, they have trample and they have a ton of power. So they're going to make it so your Grist and sort of chump blocking plans are not as good as they traditionally are for this Golgari Yawgmoth deck. We're going to see if we can overpower it.
All right, and just as an update, it does look like the Neoform deck in Legacy has taken game 1. We did get a glimpse of the Gristlebrand just doing evil Gristlebrand things. So now that game is done with too. So it looks like Sam's going to be fetching here again for another play, putting Verdant Catacombs into the graveyard, going down to 9. Now, notably, I mean, and I'm sure these deck lists aren't open; these are closed deck lists. So Sam is going to have to sort of like paint a picture of what is going on the other side of the table. And we've seen 1 Ball Lightning. We've seen 2 Ball Lightnings. I think Sam's got a pretty good idea of what the deck is trying to do here. What does he need to do now to sort of survive and win?
In the words of Ricky Bobby, I gotta go fast. We need to get on board quickly and get this combo going, just like we did last game. And this playing the Cauldron Familiar here is the first step in doing that, where we need to find Samwise, find a sack outlet, and just once again present infinite drains as quickly as possible, because Jonathan's deck is going to be really good at pushing damage, but won't play a long game. But we're not going to really have time to bridge that long game due to the nature of the creatures being so unique here. Also, Sam's in on the joke now. You know, some elemental decks used to actually play Skelemental. So Sam might be like, oh, this could be an old one. But now, you know, the trick's up as here comes Harbinger.
Oh, wow. And check this out. This is actually really cool. So 2 triggers are going to go in the stack here as Thunderkin Awakener. This is a 1/2, 1 in a red creature. And what this does is it has haste. And whenever it attacks, you could choose target elemental creature in your graveyard with toughness less than Thunderkin Awakener's toughness.
Orcish Bowmaster lines up really well against Ball of Lightning.
Oh, yeah. Now, this is one of the new cards that has come out of the set here. And if you don't know what this card is, prepare to learn it because you're going to see it a lot this weekend. It's 1 in a black, 1/1 Orc Archer, Flash ETB, amass 1, ping 1. And every time your opponent draws a card, you get to deal 1 damage to any target. And we're going to see here, it's going to just take down the Ball Lightning that got put back into play here from the Thunderkin Awakener. Massive play.
Yeah, Orcish Bowmaster is just one of these new cards that players thought would be pretty good. You know, it lines up really well against Ragavan and Esper Sentinel, 2 sort of staples of the format, but it has so much small application. Really the best raise the alarm of all time hitting the battlefield here. And just also that little bit of ping immediately lets it do things like this, where it's kind of, you know, able to ambush creatures in combat. As we are going to see, you know, a triple block there from Sam to kill the Thunderkin. So that way next turn, Sam doesn't have to worry about the Ball Lightning coming back again.
All right.
That was the 1 ring on Rog for the draw for turn.
Wait, was it actually? Okay, I guess now we can finally get into it. It's kind of interesting to see that Sam is playing not just 1, 2, or 3, but the full 4 copies of the 1 ring here. The 1 ring has a lot of text on it. I'm going to start with maybe, for me, the most incredible piece of text, which is the ETB trigger. It says, when the 1 ring enters the battlefield, if you cast it, you gain protection from everything until your next turn. Wow. Okay, continuing on that, it also says on your upkeep, you lose 1 life for each burden counter on the 1 ring. As you can see, Sam's going to finally put it into play. Announce the trigger has protection from everything, including all your Ball Lightnings. And then finally, you can tap it to put a burden counter on, and you draw a card for each a burden counter on the ring. So the first time you tap it, you draw 1. The second time you tap it, you draw 2, then 3, then 4. You can sort of see how this really gets out of control. Now, hit me with your thoughts on this card, Mason, because I have some violent wording that I may have to share.
So the 1 ring is really good. That's what we have learned as players. And I think the thing that a lot of players missed during previous season is, and maybe you're at home, you haven't seen this card played before, you're like, oh, but you lose life for all the cards you draw. The secret is you always get the cards first, then you get the card, you pay the cost later, right? So the first time you draw 3 cards before, you know, you only take 1 damage. If you're going to see a hard cast Lay on the Void, that is going to make it much harder for Sam to combo if he doesn't have a card like Boseiju in hand. Regardless, the ring sort of is going to be a way to generate more and more advantage. And basically, it just gives you a ton of cards. And that protection clause you talked about, Anurag, means that it's really easy to untap with the ring. And the thing that players maybe didn't fully appreciate at first with the ring is you see Shieldred hit the battlefield. And this is a real combo with the 1 ring. Draw 2, gain 4 life. Now this is going to undo all the life loss that Sam might normally have. And it's going to apply pressure for Jonathan. But the ring, in general, is just a way to generate a ton of cards. And the next copy of the ring resets the ring. Players are like, well, I draw a bunch of cards, but I lose a bunch of life. I can't afford to, be taking 5, 6 life a turn. That's too much, despite how many cards I'm getting. Secret is the ring resets the ring. It's legendary.
Yeah, that is impactful flavor right there, I suppose. Just the 1 ring is so good that when you play another 1 ring, which, where did it come from? But no, I agree with you, and I think this is a really good synergy too. I think from my perspective, the 1 ring is maybe the most powerful card in Modern. I love to see this sort of innovation here, combining with Shieldred to gain life. That's pretty good. As a second Delighted Halfling is going to enter play, now Jonathan sort of on under a lot of pressure here because Sam's got a couple cards in hand, but if Sam gets to draw an additional 3 cards, keep in mind that Sam's got a very efficient combo just baked into his deck. This could be very, very disastrous for Jonathan.
Yeah. And just in general, even if, we didn't have a combo going that actually won the game from Sam. The Shieldred just gaining you so much life every time you draw these cards makes it so hard. And a card like Skelemental here, normally very, very strong, is going to rip your opponent's hand apart. Doesn't matter with the ring context happening. So, while we are getting attack here for for a bunch because of Exalted and everything, it's just, enough for exact lethal, but Sam can just block and gain enough life back with the ring.
Yeah, so another Thunderkin Awakener going to come into play here. That brings back a Ball Lightning. We can see lining up blocks here from Sam's side. Shieldred going to go in front of the Thunderkin Awakener, just eat that one up for free. And then are we just planning on taking the 6 damage from the Ball Lightning?
It looks like the Ball Lightning is going to go unblocked because we would lose our cat to the Leyline of the Void, and I believe we're just playing 1 Cauldron Familiar, so we don't want to lose that. Looks like we are going to have the Delight Halfling maybe chump block the Skelemental, so we'll save 2 more life. And one cool thing Sam can do is, normally on Rog, you don't want to activate the ring in response to the burden counter trigger because you lose more life. In the case of Shieldred in play, we can actually see Sam respond to his own burden counter, draw 3 cards, gain 6 life, and then lose 3. So even if we were going to normally die to the burden trigger, we can actually get out of that thanks to Shieldred.
Okay. Yeah, I will say as much that round 1 of this event, I was not expecting to see actually almost anything here, like a sweet Golgari brew featuring Yawgmoth and the ring and Shieldred. But on the other side, like this elemental deck, I mean, I guess at this point, I originally thought that Sam was going to be on the back pedal, but has he like sufficiently stabilized now?
He's really, really close, I think, to stabilizing. As we're seeing here, with Shieldred in the ring, you just generate so many cards and we passively gain life too. And as the Skelemental deck sort of has this problem of you are throwing away cards for damage, right? Sort of like a burn deck. And we're reaching the part where we're hitting top decks, but instead of your burn spells always doing 6 damage, we have so many creatures in play that, yes, we'd like to keep Shieldred around, but worst comes to worst, Shieldred can block and gain us that life back. So we're going to see Sam drop to 1, gain 2 from the draw trigger for turn, activate the ring, gain 6 more life. And so now we're up all these cards, all these things, and really it's just mana and time that Sam Black is fighting against.
Okay, so I'm just going to point blank ask you this because you're the expert here. Can Jonathan even win from this point? Like, what has to happen here for this Ball Lightning deck to sort of...
I think we're going to need more of those Thunderkin Harbingers so that we can keep bringing back more Skelementals. And we're going to need Sam to draw a lot of lands and high mana cards. This is a thing that sometimes the 4-color decks have problems with, and the control decks with the One Ring, is that you don't have enough mana in order to actually deploy and use all your cards. Now, we saw Sam Black play a Boseiju last turn, which is a clear answer to Leyline of the Void. So clearly Sam isn't that worried about the Leyline, but that's going to stop any sort of combo kill before we answer that. So Sam really is fighting against the mana more than anything because Sam should have the cards to stabilize, but do we have the mana and do we have the time? So we have to see here from Jonathan, who has used 2 Thunderkin Awakeners already.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting too because I feel like Jonathan is running out of gas here a little bit, but still the board state is still quite tense where it's just like all you need is like, one turn of like mana efficient plays, and then you could actually steal a game here. Sam clearly on the cusp of like stabilizing thanks to the ring activating it and gaining life, which is probably not how it was designed to be played, but is brilliant to see how players will innovate with this sort of card in their respective archetypes as a Wall of Roots is going to come into play here. So let me ask you a question now. This Leyline of the Void, you've mentioned that it's been a problem for a couple times. Why is this a problem, and then how do we beat it from the Golgari Yawgmoth side for anybody who is trying to become an aspiring black-green player?
Yeah, so the problem with Leyline of the Void is that, we talked about sacrificing our cat and bringing it back from the graveyard. Leyline of the Void is going to stop that. It also stops our undying creatures from doing their whole trick, as we do see a Yawgmoth in hand. So that Leyline of the Void is just basically saying, like, hey, you can't combo kill me, but that's all it's saying. And one of the good things about these black-green mid-range decks that we're talking about is they actually play pretty normal games as well. So, even if we can't combo, look at all the power we have on board right now. And, Anarg, you talked about, can the modern Ball Lightning player win from here? I think that the Yawgmoth is actually game over because now we can sacrifice any creature and just immediately kill the Ball Lightning and actually net a life thanks to Shieldred. So I think we're going to need something like a high-impact sideboard card from Jonathan if we're going to win this game.
Okay, yeah, that's a really good point because Yawgmoth does have the ability to put -1/-1 counters on creatures, and spoiler, all these lightning guards have just 1 point of toughness just by virtue of working with the whole elemental sub-theme. And now Shieldred is actually coming in the red zone, which is terrifying if you're ever on the aggressor side. When the control player attacks, you know you're in for a bad time. So it's going to be tricky. We'll see if Jonathan has something. As an update, though, Rakdos Sacrifice has taken game 1 in the Pioneer matchup, and Jeskai Delver and the Neoform deck in Legacy are going into a game 3. So maybe we can catch the tail end of that match after we see the conclusion of this game here. But I would say if we had that advantage bar, it'd be all the way off the side of the screen here in Sam Black's favor.
Yeah, we really just need Sam to make sure to touch his cards during the next couple of turns. If he does that, he should find a way to win. As Thunderkin Awakener was a card we talked about, that was the first step in maybe coming back here. But now that the Yawgmoth was drawn, it really isn't going to be good enough unless Sam wants to give, Jonathan a chance, which it looks like Sam decided not to be nice in that regard and instead just going to try and kill this Thunderkin Awakener, lose a life from the Yawgmoth trigger, then gain 2 from the Shieldred trigger, and just be in a very powerful position here.
Wow, I really like this. And now, this is absolutely merciless. And I am a fan of playing Magic this way. Is like once you have it, you can see the handshake there, just saying I have no more outs. And so Sam Black going to win the first match of 3 here in the Team Trios event here. Let's see if we can jump into the Legacy match here to catch it before it wraps up, and then get a good gauge of what's going on here. So just as a recap, we have Jeskai Delver on the left here by the hands of Aspa Amiridis, and Blake Stinson on the right playing, it says Simic combo, and to further refine it, it is Neoform. We did get to see Allosaurus Rider come into play and be sacked to a Neoform, fetching up a Griselbrand. I think it was as fast as turn 1 or 2, and that's quite terrifying. Here we're going to see, though, Dragon's Rage Channeler and Volcanic Island. Talk to me about this matchup a little bit. What is the Delver side trying to do here against combo?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask you because you're sort of, traditionally Delver is sort of a deck that wants to play on low resources, have things like Daze and Forcible to take over. You are much more the Legacy expert than I, so I'm curious, is there any nuance besides, like, hey, we want to sort of wasteland them out, apply pressure, and have, that soft permission? Is there something that really matters here, maybe from the Neoform side on the Legacy build of the deck? Or is this just, kind of traditional, we're going to try and, fight over only the key cards and just hit you for 3 a couple times?
Hold up, I'm gonna get my expert side hat here. Just got to put this on right. No, you are 100% correct here. The Delver deck is notorious for playing a very low to the ground curve. So you're playing a bunch of 0 mana spells in the form of like Force of Will and Daze. You've got a bunch of efficient threats at the 1 cost, like Dragon's Rage Channeler and Delver of Secrets. And the goal here is basically to just be so efficient that your opponent doesn't get to play Magic, which is exactly what is happening on right here. We've sort of seen that we've wastelanded our opponent once, and they're just not doing anything anymore because their deck is just too expensive. Now, I will say that the Neoform deck in particular does have a couple of outs here. You could, I guess, Allosaurus Rider does need to have lands in play to have power and toughness, right? It is a star in terms of power and toughness.
I think so. I'm gonna be honest, I've never seen that card in Legacy. So that's believable, and that's gonna be much harder with Wasteland in play here. As we do see a Gemstone Cavern and a tap here, and notably Blake was holding that Gemstone Cavern, so was playing around a card like Wasteland here for a bit. Oh, and it looks like we're just taking a second to see what's going on. Like, no worries.
All right.
And it does look like Allosaurus Shepherd was played, getting rid of the 2 green cards.
All right. Wow. And is that an Eldritch Evolution?
That is. Oh, you know what it is, Honorog, is you get to play the land, and there's not a chance. Or I guess you could get it with it on the stack, but looks like we didn't care because we just had Hardcast Force Negation. As we do have Pact of Negation as the lock card in hand.
Okay, wait, that's actually nuts. That's actually just nuts. Wait a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna get a Surveil trigger here. Aspa, they maybe have a response, but they're gonna get their Surveil first. And this is the last turn of the game, Honorog. We have to pay 3 blue and upkeeper. We're gonna lose it for Blake. And it looks like we're fighting. This fight has been won by the Pact, and now it's resolving. We're gonna go get Griselbrand.
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait, that's actually so crazy. So I actually love that Blake was able to sandbag the land. like understanding that Wasteland was going to be a key element there. I think that the gemstone mine was in hand for a couple turns, and then realizing, okay, so we're just going to play our shepherd. We've got a little bit of extra mana here in the form of the Elvish Spirit Guides, and this is something that's really interesting in this kind of matchup, particularly too, because you really do want to sort of masquerade the amount of resources that you have available to you when your opponent is playing a very controlling list, right? Obviously, like they at that point, it looked like Blake had no mana, when in reality there was like at least three cards worth of mana just hiding. And maybe that sort of let Aspa to believe that they could sort of play with shields down a little bit. And this is the punish.
Yeah, as we do see the Grizzleborn here draw 7. And this is really the strength of these decks, in comparison to Legacy to Modern. Things like Elvish Spirit Guide to let you sort of just combo from the hand and out of nowhere. And it's so much harder on the Delver players to play around, right? What if Aspa had tapped out to try and do a cantrip and failed, right? In this situation, we just sort of had it, but really challenging. As we are going to see Blake just draw another 7 cards going down to 4. This is our last 7 for now, unless we can find a Nourishing Shoal.
So I'm looking through the list right now. There are 4 copies of Nourishing Shoal. I also see a card called Fortifying Draught. That one is pretty interesting. Where it says you gain 2 life, and then target creature gets +X/+X, where X is the amount of life you gain this turn. So with Nourishing Shoal, you could actually get like plus a billion. There's also, interestingly enough, so I'm basically trying to find out like what's different between this list and like the modern list. I see Thrasta Tempest's Roar. Now, this card is 10 green, so it's pretty expensive, but it has cost reduction. So it costs 3 less to cast for each other spell you cast this turn, and also has trample and haste. So what you could do is, buy a bunch of Elvish Spirit Guides and then put this card into play, because you're playing like Lotus Petals and you're playing all these sort of like efficient 0 mana spells that will reduce the cost of Thrasta. The question is, with the 14 cards or so that we drew from Gristlebrand, do we actually have a way to continue here? I see a Lotus Petal.
Yeah, I don't think we drew a Nourishing Shoal, and we're just conceding.
What?
I can't believe we're conceding.
Wait, that's actually so crazy.
We hit no more gain life things. The pack's going to kill us in the upkeep, and there's no way to win. The deck doesn't have an instant speed win condition where we could respond. Oh my goodness, what a crazy... If you've ever played Legacy or played against Grizzlebrand, you know how unlucky it is to not hit anything you need off 14 cards. It's just so many cards.
This is like it's like an episode of JoJo, like one plot twist after another, right? The first is like, all right, we got Delver, and then you're like, first plot twist, wait, the Gristlebrand actually got into play? Like, that's not supposed to happen against the deck that has all permission. And then finally, the Gristlebrand got into play, and you're just like, well, I played a Pact negation, and now I'm just dead to my own cards. Like, I mean, if I'm in Aspa's seat there, I'm kind of just like, we take those, you know what I mean? So that's pretty powerful, yeah.
Yeah, actually crazy. And then from the Gristlebrand player, a lot like ReZero, just constant pain happening there after all the plot twists. So, Anurag, that was a crazy first round.
It really was. And just for just awareness, so the way the team trios events work is if you have 3 matches going on, and whichever team wins 2 out of 3 of those matches, the entire team wins. So we don't actually get to watch the resolution of the Pioneer match, because both the Modern and the Legacy seats won on that team. So congratulations to Team Black for making it past this first round with 2 wins in Modern and Legacy. But I was actually just like really, really happy. I don't know who picked the feature matches for this round, but just like fist bump. Those were some pretty tight matches. Wait, was it you?
It was me. Oh my gosh, flattery gets you everywhere, Anurag.
All right, well, I'm impressed. That was pretty exciting. Because I'll talk about the Modern one too for a moment. I was actually kind of sweating from Sam's side, because when I saw like the first ball lightning come in and the second one come in, if Sam literally just like didn't have a play that turn with the Shieldred or the Ring or whatever it was, I think we would have seen game 2 swing the other way. But yeah, I think continuing on, let's take a look really quickly at the getting a note from production here.
Breaking news.
Okay, so we actually have an update for you. Even though the team trios match is technically over, players want to play Magic. I can't say no to that. So let's dive into Pioneer. Game 3, Dimir Mill against Rakdos Sacrifice here. We're going to have Brian Kowal on the play in this Game 3, and we'll get the UI updated for you just in a moment here. I actually really like this. I love that even though the match is technically over, the players still want to hang out and play. Appreciate it very much. Thank you. Mm-hmm. So now, turn 1, we have, is this Den of the Bugbear? No, that's not Den of the Bugbear. What
No,
is
that's
that
the
card?
bugbear. You're right.
Oh, it is.
Trust yourself, King.
Oh man. Okay, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, you and I haven't worked together yet, but the reason I got the job on ARG is I know all of the alternate arts. I've only lost the game once, and that's when I wasn't in the booth. I was in Twitch chat, so it doesn't count. That's that's my new agenda. Yeah, I'm pretty good at the game.
As we do. All right. Well, pop quiz then. What's the crab on the other side? Is it the Hedron crab or the rune crab?
Hedron crab. There's a rune crab's not in the old crab's not in Pioneer, buddy.
Okay.
All right, come on, Grandpa. Let's go outside.
It was a trick question. I was just testing you. +1 to Mason. Yeah. All right. So talk to me about starts though, because is this the best start that you could get from the mill side?
This is, playing the crab on turn 1 has got to be one of your best plays. Maybe a card like Fatal Push, against a deck that's relying on Elf would be a little bit better. But in the dark, if you could pick a card, put it up in your hand, this crab is it, because getting the mills every single turn really add up, and getting that passive from the landfall add up. When you're playing mill, it's a lot like a burn deck. You're trying to do X amount of damage. It's just cards in deck instead of life total. So, as we see a second crab come down here, we're going to mill 6. Pretend this is like Boros charming you, but it's when you play a land.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so you're telling me that these crabs are basically just like the blue goblin guides, right? Like that's what basically,
they are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is a lot like Monastery Swiftspear. Just bam, bam.
Oh man. Okay. I think I'm with you now. So let's see. We saw the Deadly Dispute, sacrificing the creature to draw 2 cards, and now there's a lot of cards. Oh my goodness. Wait, that was a
23 cards left in deck. Is my quick math. From the Deadly Dispute, the Draw from Turn, the Unlucky Witness, and these crabs, we've actually just moved through a ton of cards here from Brian. Now, it's possible Brian actually sideboarded in more cards. Having intervals of 3 actually make a big difference. So, for example, having the 61st card can matter in these sort of spots.
Okay, gotcha. How is Brian supposed to win from this spot? Because it does not. You said 23 cards left in deck. It does not. So. Okay. It does not seem very. That's a lot. For this as early as this portion of the game here.
Brian has a few things. Some of these lists play Corvald. I'm sorry, play Croxa. Misspoke. That's a really good way to abuse the mill and maybe catch up. Also, the card Mayhem Devil is a great way to ping down creatures. And we have things like Fatal Push and Claim the Firstborn. If you're a Rakdos Sacrifice fan, you're going to really hope that we have a card like this here to start applying pressure, start picking down the crabs, and sort of hope to whiff on the actual mill spells, because the mill spells are going to be how we do the finishing points of damage, I think, in this matchup. So it does look like we're going to sacrifice a treasure and play an oven.
Okay. Now, walk me through this one more time, high level, right? As somebody who only plays, Legacy and Modern more recently, the Rakdos Sacrifice deck is trying to assemble, it seems like Voltron of some sorts, but what are the individual components there?
Yeah, so they're trying to assemble Cauldron Familiar, which we saw in the Modern suit from Sam Black, and then Witch's Oven, which is an artifact that lets you sacrifice a creature and then make a food. And if the creature has 4 toughness or greater, you make 2 food. So what it works is you sacrifice the cat, you make the food, you sacrifice the food to bring back the cat, you gain a life, they lose a life. It stops all aggression. The Cat Oven actually got banned in Standard for how good it was against creature decks. It's hold true in Modern. And then when you combine that with Mayhem Devil, every time you sacrifice something, you ping something. So the Rakdos Sacrifice deck is the ultimate sort of, if you're trying to play on the battlefield, I am not going to allow you to do anything. I'm going to ping all your creatures down, and I'm going to stop all the aggression.
Interesting. Well, we're going to see on the other side here, Ashiok comes into play here, is going to activate its ability, mill 4 cards from the other side, and then exile the entire graveyard, which seems to be pretty good here for a deck that is trying to really build up that Cauldron's Familiar recursion. We're going to see Ashiok also go down to 1. And there is the Cauldron's Familiar. Okay, so we've got some stuff going on here, but is it going to be enough, or are we a bit too little too late?
It really depends on sort of, once again, to use the burn dynamic, right? We're kind of down to 5-6-ish life equivalently for Brian here, to use the burn analogy, which means we're kind of needing one more big mill spell. And if we get that plus, a Fable Passage, that will probably go the distance in this matchup. But it really matters on, do we have, the land and the payoff spell here from Fernie.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy part too is that Fernie still has 4 cards in hand, and even at this point, lands are not even bad to have. So even if you flood out, each land is basically mill you for X, and then you're struggling. And so, I think if I had to guess from this position, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm seeing if my notes are. If you're teaching me the stuff, you have to grade me on this, right? Dimir Mill seems pretty ahead here.
Yeah, Dimir Mill I do think is pretty ahead right now. The double crab start is basically as good as this deck can get. And the only thing that could have been better was the third crab.
The third crab. It's like thinking about like Toy Story when like the aliens are in the like machine and they're just like, oh,
yes. Field of Ruin Honorok.
Oh,
It's
oh.
that's gonna let us blow up a land and get another landfall trigger.
That's like that's cheating almost. That's like another fetch land.
Yeah, and we're gonna see it go after that Den the Bugbear immediately. And Brian does it the Penguins deck. He doesn't need to put a land to play if he doesn't want to. Looks like he has, I would guess, 15-ish cards in deck. Not many here.
Yeah, you can see he's shuffling, and it's like really hard to shuffle. The deck is so thin.
Yeah, and we're gonna mill 6 more here when the land enters the battlefield. Yeah, I mean, that is not much left. And you're going to see the players didn't cut because, once again, Sam Black's team, the team on the left, has already won the round. These two players just wanted to finish their match, and we're like, well, if you're going to be playing, we might as well be commentating.
Plus, this way, like, at the end of the day, you could tell your teammates, look, I won my round. You know what I mean? Yeah, so...
Yeah, if I'm teaming with Honorog, it's my personal record. If I'm teaming with good friends, it's, our team is this,
All right, here comes the Thoughtseize. Oh, and that's so interesting. I guess this deck could play it too. It's going to reveal a land. Is that Takanuma?
Yeah, Takanuma and Unlucky Witness. Unlucky Witness. Only real choice.
All right. It just seems like we didn't get that sort of hyper-aggressive start that we may have needed from the Rakdos side to sort of really pressure the life total, because Fernie's still at a healthy 17. The only way we're going to win this is through the combat step. Is there any particular draw here off the top that might be helpful?
Devil. Mayhem it has to be Devil, yeah, because we need one way to think about this Honorog from a life total perspective is if you have Oven, Cat, and Devil, if you send all the damage face, it's 1 Lava Spike, so 3 damage. So if we got another Devil, we could shoot down the crabs. Then that would make it so that we're able to actually kind of go the distance on not getting milled passively and force it to be a mill spell to kill us. And then we would have, deal 3, and then sort of attack down. So we're really close to actually kind of turning the corner. But we sort of have, 2 to 3 turns before we kill them. And they kind of just need 1 to 2 turns is the problem.
Okay. That actually is interesting because you mentioned Mayhem Devil. Now, Takanuma in the hand can buy back creatures and planeswalkers, right? And I think I saw a copy.
It mills 3, though. So it's a dangerous line to walk.
Yeah, dang. Okay, that's interesting. It's like, well, it's funny because I've been playing the Ring a lot in Modern, and whenever I get paired up against Burn, I have that same sort of just like ethical choice here. Do I just ping myself and do their job for them to draw more cards? The answer is always yes. Everything to draw cards.
Of course.
But this is a nice little analogy there. So tricky. But wait, where did the crabs go? They're gone.
So it looks like we blocked with the crabs, which implies that Fernie maybe has a lot of mill spells in hand and not a lot of lands. And he was like, listen, if these things are going to die to the devil anyways, I might as well have them block more damage now and just get a chance to for sure cast my spells.
Okay, I actually really like that decision, realizing that it's time to pivot, that, even though we are maybe still able to generate a little bit of value here off of these crabs, that it's time to do bigger, better things. The crabs have certainly done their job, right? So we just move on now.
Yes, as we do have Fraying Sanity up on the screen here for you. Or up on the board, I should say. I don't know if we can get that one pulled up on the screen in time. Do you know Fraying Sanity?
Isn't this Fractured Sanity? Is like the one that has cycling on it. It draws mills 4 when you cycle it, but otherwise it mills a lot more.
Like no, that's a different Sanity card. That one's from a Modern Horizons.
Oh, okay.
This one's an enchantment. At the beginning of each player's end step, that player puts the top X cards of their library into their graveyard, where X is the number of cards put into the graveyard from the library this turn. So, for example, if you were to have a crab in play, you mill 3, then you mill 3 again.
Gotcha. What? Wait, that's terrifying.
Yeah, it's very good with things like, Jace the Perfected Mind. Normally, I believe, mills about 9, and now it's milling 18. It basically doubles all of your milling. As we do see the second Mayhem Devil here.
Don't give me hope. No, don't give me. Oh my God! Wait, this is getting close. All right, hold up. Here comes the devil.
Attack for 5. Go to 8. Cauldron Familiar bringing back is 5 damage. The 2 tokens is 7 damage. I think we're 1 damage off lethal right now. I could be mistaken.
Oh my gosh. No way.
Oh, so we still have the Elven activation. Yeah, I forgot we had the first food. I think that's exact lethal. Oh my goodness.
We're doing the thing, we're recurring it a couple times here. Hand motions, more hand motions, familiar and back into play. Do we actually just have it?
Yeah, we had it. Oh my goodness. With just like, it looks about 3 cards left in deck there too. Looks like, what a crazy round here.
That's
Wow.
insane. Oh my god, that was down to the wire actually. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, because okay, like internally, like you just have certain metrics and heuristics, right? When you see crab on turn like 1 and 2, you're just like, all right, this was and just like uncontested 2, you're just like, this game is just over, right? And still we were able to like pull something out of there. So massive props here. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. It's the unofficial, or it's the official unofficial 3-0 for the team. You know, like sometimes you like you 3-0 your opponent when you lose to yourself or something like that. This is the 3-0 here for Team Sam Black. And I think that was those are some really nice matches to like showcase a bunch of different interesting things that each of the formats have to offer. I'm still, not, like in retrospect, Mason, like we saw obviously like winning on the very last turn possible against the mill deck. We saw Gristlebrand fail, and then we die to our own Pact of Negation trigger. And then we also saw turn 3 combo kill you with new cards from the Lord of the Rings set. So all in all, I'm gonna, the real winner here is obviously Mason for picking such a great feature match this round.
So I think it's the people who are the real winners who get to hang out with us here all day on ROG watching Magic. We're running Magic all day today and all day tomorrow. So make sure to click that follow button. That way you don't miss any of the action.
Wait, all day? I'm here with you all day.
Well,
Norm, we got to Norm
eventually. Yeah, don't worry.
Right,
We're going to be stuck here for another 4 hours. Then you get to go home, and then you can watch from home in your bed.
All right. On that note, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back for more content. We're going to ship you over to some best of the NRG series matchup content that you can see how like people have played in the history of the event, and some pretty exciting gameplay there. Pretty sure this feature match could also make the cut there too. But we'll be back with more content, so you don't go anywhere.